Yeah. So howdy, y'all. I am Josey Meyer, working with Kathryn and the rest of our team on our game called Reamifton North. And getting into it for introductions, we all worked on the game as a collaborative effort for our class at the University Krems. We are originally from Texas A&M University, most of us in visualization department, and one of us being a comp sci major. And so I personally worked on the gameplay design and the UI programming. Kathryn.
And I worked on the narrative design, and I also helped out as a gameplay artist.
And we have our other teammates, Monty Patino, Jared Derry, and Michael Black, who respectively were gameplay artists and programmers who also helped out with the game. And moving on, we have the overview of our game concept, and then we'll delve more into the production, the narrative design, and the gameplay design, and show y'all some of the visual of the gameplay. So going with the overall process, so throughout this entire semester, we have been working from a work from home environment. And that in itself has provided a lot of fun obstacles. And so lots of pros and cons with the work from home environment. For one, we're mostly staying in communication in Discord. And so we have multiple channels we've been working through. We have announcements, general chat, we gotta have memes, and the links and different meeting spaces to where if we ever need to host a meeting, then we can just say, hey, at everyone, on our when to meet, we said we can meet at this specific time, so let's hop in. And usually either it will be a quick meeting session to where we're like, okay, here's what we've done so far, and here's what we plan on doing till our next meeting. And then alternatively, we also have a work and chill environment to where we can just talk about, like we could just work together to where we'll just be working at the same time. And if we ever have any questions for each other, then we'll just say, hey, I'm having this issue. Can somebody help me? And then the others are there to help. So that's been that's been how we've basically been running the whole project throughout the semester. And getting more into the concept of the game itself. So our topic was, we knew from the get-go that we needed to have a serious game, and it needed to be something to teach the players about. And especially it needed to be something that is a modern issue that we wanted to address. That is in something that, so for example, we wanted to focus on the U.S. postal system because that is currently a prominent topic with, it touches on economic inequality and racial inequality within the United States, because a lot of people will be doing banking through these services, such as with the U.S. postal system, to where they're having to submit mail. And if that mail is delayed in any way, shape, or form, or isn't being delivered or abrupted in some form or fashion, then that can cause extra financial weight on those people who aren't able to get their bills across. Because usually a lot of times people will end up, if they don't have transportation access to go, for example, voter suppression, it leans into this too. If they don't have transportation to go to the polls, or they're working all the time, then they do need to mail in their votes because they don't have those types of access as other people might. And then also this contributes to, in our day and age 2020, the pandemic. And so if people need medicine or groceries sent to them, then sometimes the postal service is the way that they have to go because they can't go out. Maybe they're like have pick up diseases more often, and they legit cannot go outside without being at risk for the pandemic. And so having the idea of the fundamental core of what we wanted, going into leaning into the U.S. Postal System service, we wanted to lean into Papers, Please, because Papers, Please has a fantastic narrative design. and deals with finance management towards the end, to where you're doing the main gameplay loop, and then it has this nice secondary loop of making sure that your family is staying alive, and has this nice tightrope balance between being a difficult game to master, but also that challenge, like getting you to want to keep playing. And the storyline in the game is through the gameplay itself. And so you'll have these nice, funny characters that come up, and they'll have their own little story that you get invested in, to where, oh, hey, I kind of want to approve Josey here. Uh, just because he's trying his darndest on getting through, and I don't know, I think it'd be kind of funny to let him through and just see what happens. And so there's nice different storylines happening in that regard, just through the gameplay itself. And so we really like that. And then going on to Wilmot's Warehouse. Wilmot's Warehouse has fantastic player movement. It's based on a warehouse structure in itself, and so the mechanics themselves worked really nicely for our US PS game. And so you're in there and you're sorting items by yourself, and so you get to have a nice organized space that the player can adjust and modify as they need. So moving on to narrative, I will then pass this on to Kathryn.
All right, so narrative. Here's our lovely cast. Our main character is Casimir Blakely. They go by Kaz. Their manager is named Harriet, and they have coworkers Ramiro and Zuri. We wanted to have a diverse cast and a main character that was androgynous, so that the players could identify with them however they felt was best. And our cast represents various persons affected by this system. So for world building, we're taking a page out of Papers, Please book. We renamed our country to Somalica. So this is the Somalica United Alliance Postage Assistance instead of the United States Postal Service. The branch of service in the city that we are living in is the Reamifton North branch. It is obviously based on our current situation in the 2020 United States. The president is President Horn. And we have newspapers and other elements of our world that represent our current standing in a very politicized environment.
So delving more into the game design aspect on how the player goes about playing the game. So to start off, we have different phases of the game that the player will go throughout the day. And so there will be daily cycles in a sense, to where the first one from the get-go and start, you're going to wake up in the morning, read the newspaper headlines, just saying, okay, here's what's been going on. Here's how my gameplay has been affecting the game. Of course, the first day, you're not going to have much affected. It's more of setting up the scene for what the player is doing and what world they're in. And this is sort of like the secondary narrative element, as we then move into the main narrative element, which is the break room. And so here you'll have exchanges between players and talking that will drive the story. And moving on to the warehouse section, to where we'll have main gameplay movement, and you'll do mail sorting throughout the scene. And so you as the player will move around and pick boxes up, put them down, and depending on like how you move those boxes or which boxes you'll prioritize, then basically you'll affect the game as more days goes on. And then after that, we'll have the office screen, to where the player will have character-based options for gameplay. So depending on who they upgrade will also affect how the gameplay itself leads. And so just snapshots of our game, to which you'll also see in our gameplay. We have the newspaper, and so this is an example of one of the headlines that will go on there. And so, and then moving on to the break room, then we'll have like the different characters talking, and they have different expressions, and make it nice and interactive. our warehouse scene. And so this is the player in the center there. And then to the left, you'll see the packages, which are unsorted, and then they'll be able to pick them up and move them around in the scene. And then at the end, deliver them as well. And then in the office, this is our screenshot for each character has their own little stamp, and you can go and click which one to upgrade. And so each of them will give different upgrades depending on who you upgrade. And then delving into the future development. So we want to expand the narrative to where we can have branching storylines, and for again, leaning towards the example of Papers, Please, to where depending on how the player goes about affecting their world on the packages that they prioritize and the characters that they upgrade type of deal, then there is a potential for multiple endings, and really helping drive the narrative-based gameplay and the obstacles to where we can get those topics that we talked about at the beginning and delve into those a bit more through the narrative itself. Because, of course, gameplay can only go so far with teaching the topics, and so if we tie the narrative to the gameplay, both of those can meld together and really sell like, hey, this is the notes that we're trying to take on this specific topic, so please learn from them. And then audio implementation, we have some original music already set up, and we want to implement that in the game, and then also adding special effects, sound effects, and then overall general polish, just streamlining the gameplay, points balancing, and getting into UI polish. And so going to our gameplay demo, we have a recording on YouTube, so where one of our players had gone through the game, and as they're going, we can talk about it. And so this is the horn review of the efficiency of the UAPA, and claims UAPA does not run like proper business. Concerns out of rise of Netastics delivery service making UAPA redundant.
As we're going through this, I'm just going to remind our audience that this is all created in a 3-month span while we were in a pandemic and taking classes and all these other things. So the future development is something we'd very much like to do, but this core gameplay and a very polished and lovely game that we have here is representative of the time we have currently spent.
Mm-hmm. And I'll also note that the game this is currently the build that only has just day 1, and we want to, so our semester has been spent getting into the systems on making sure that our dialogue system works and our base systems function in such a way to where now that we have the functionality of it built, it will be very easy to create more days to go on and add more content in the game. And yeah, and so anything that we might not have been able to do now, we will be able to do in the future in that development. And so right now we have the dialogue system, and I'll let y'all read as the time goes on. But yeah, if y'all have any questions as we watch the gameplay go, feel free to, we can open it up to QA, and if y'all want me to skip to any specific section in the game, then just let me know.
Yeah, our team did very well to make sure all of our systems were built in a way that we could add to them instead of being obsolete. So that was our main focus, was to get this lovely visual slice.
And now, as we see on the video, this is our main gameplay, showing off how we walk around and can pick up boxes. And in the scene itself, you'll see these X's here on the right, and those are actually walls to where the player can use them to sort and or organize the boxes better. And then also, they also partially act as obstacles that one of the potential things we're looking at in the future is for the player to be able to upgrade and remove them. That way they'll have more space to put more boxes. And yeah. Again, if there's any questions, feel free to either say them out loud or have them in the chat.
So this is the next phase of the gameplay. After you have a sorting phase, there's a phase where you take the packages you've sorted to deliver them. Yes, it is made in Unity.
Yes, it's made in Unity. We ended up, we were trying to choose between if we wanted to use Unreal 4 or Unity. And since we knew we wanted to play more along the 2D aspect, then that's why we chose Unity between the two. Here's our wonderful pause screen too. It has functionality.
So the goal here for the player may not seem so clear just yet, because we would like to add in some more narrative-based elements like packages that are labeled ballots or Natastic, which is our version of Amazon. So if you prioritize Amazon packages, your company may receive more money and things might be easier at work. But if you don't prioritize the ballots, then the country may not do so well. So your newspapers will reflect that every day based on your internal choices. Currently, though, we did want to focus more on getting the boxes to spawn and be counted by when you submit them for delivery. So, yeah. The player is free to,
I just wanted to note that the player's free to, you were saying the player's free to pick up and move around the boxes as they want and organize the game and to where they can pick up and move the boxes. And I just wanted to note the top, up on the top, the stars are based on how well you as a employee is working and sorting the boxes and the efficiency between you able to pick up and get the boxes to the end spawn versus like how quick you can do it and in the accuracy of which you do.
Yeah. And while our player here is organizing their boxes within the area that the boxes spawn, you can use the full warehouse to organize your boxes. It's up to the player, so they have a little bit of expression even in such a rigid system.
And in the current version of the game, right now, the player isn't necessarily using the middle part like we want them to. And so one of the fixes we want to have for that is to spawn more boxes than what can just fit in that area, like over time. And there will be more boxes spawning than there will be the ones that will be going outwards. And so that way it encourages the player to utilize the middle space more often and not just pick boxes up from the left and move them to the right, but having this nice middle ground between round to round and day to day, that those extra boxes will stay there in the middle for them to then return to the next day. You can see that there are more boxes going on.
We have functionality set up so the player can pick up 4 boxes, but we were considering having the player be limited in the number of boxes they can carry if perhaps narratively something occurs to them or they gain an upgrade. So at the beginning of the game, our final game, theoretically, we could have it be that the player can only carry 2 boxes at once. And then as they invest time in the office in this character, they could carry more. These are the things that we've been focusing on. Did we work together with workers from the U.S. Postal Service? No, we did not. That would have been amazing to be able to do. During the time that we were working on this game, there was a lot of distress in the Postal Service, and there was a lot of focus on the election and stresses of the election. We did look into, we researched the perspectives, the varying perspectives of Postal Service workers. And of course, they have their own biases and opinions, and some think that the U.S. Postal Service can do no wrong, and others are very critical of it and describe their day-to-day stressors. So it's very, with the wealth of the internet, we have a wide range of information on that. But we did not work with anyone directly. Josey, would you talk about the office?
Yeah, and I'll touch back on the Postal Service bit in a moment, but the office scene that we just saw here, so we can see each character, and each one will have their own special ability special ability. So since each character themselves works for a different part in the U.S. Postal Service, we wanted to emphasize their different parts. So for example, Zuri there, she works the front section, so she'll be taking in mail and like giving out mail, and so she's the one that you are delivering to towards the front, and so she can give you extra time because either like she'll help delay the person up front or however long. And then Harriet is your manager, and so she gives you your overall score and how well you do as a worker. And Cass is the main character which you play as, and they're the movement speed within the gameplay itself, and so you can walk a little bit faster, get some nicer tennis shoes. And then Romero has the carry weight, and so that he can help you pick more boxes up and help you move throughout the game. And touching on the U.S. Postal Service question, while we did not work together with the U.S. Postal Service, we did do research on pulling up articles that are discussing the topic, especially bringing up the topic of the Postal Service being delayed by a lot. There's been a lot of going to third parties and like having the third parties will actually use the Postal Service as a way to finish off their more difficult boxes to deliver, and other such things as they plan on upgrading the Postal Service, but there are instances of they will get these upgraded materials, but then these upgraded materials are never utilized in the way that they should be. And they end up just like, for example, sorting machines, and then those sorting machines will just never be used, and they sit in the office space and just taking up room compared to where they could use that room for like helping sort boxes and whatnot. And we do want to implement that type of stuff in the game as examples of, hey, this is something that's been happening and something that we should address because this isn't an ideal situation, and we would like to bring this up as a topic to be discussed in real life.
All right. It is, I believe, 2 minutes till the end of our presentation. Are there any other questions or feedback? We welcome feedback eagerly.